Hello Endgame fans, it's an insane week of new releases with more than 30 titles of interest, so let's begin with Powerlust, a classically designed Diablo-style action RPG that interestingly has an open world structure as well as a free-form class system in which you can spec in any direction that you like, which did impress during the most recent Steam Next Festival, and here we are with the early access release. Here's a fun little title that went the extra mile of adding in animated sections for their trailer, and while not completely necessary, does add to it in this particular case, since 502's Arcade is an impressive looking arcade minigame collection that seems to have quite the variety. You are playing variants of classic arcade-style gameplay experiences, in which I can see magical drop and super crit box equivalents in this trailer, although curiously, the developer does not state exactly how many there are on the Steam store page. Still, if you love a throwback experience with variety, this is one to watch. Love indie games? Sign up to my newsletter to get a weekly dose of what's hot, along with some news and of course, weekly game giveaways, so if interested, link is in the description below. I have the intention to still do a video on upcoming real-time strategy games of the year, since there's somewhat of a renaissance happening, but it appears that I'm a little bit too late for 9-bit Armies a bit too far, since it is launching in early access this week. This is the sequel to 8-bit Armies from 2016, which was a similar military-themed voxel real-time strategy game coming to us from Petroglyph, maker of other RTS games like Grey Goo, and more importantly, comprises of ex-Westwood developers, who of course are best known for Command and Conquer, so they're still keeping the genre alive in 2024. It looks good and cranks it up to 9 as compared to 8 of the previous game, which means additional features like a co-op mode, a veterancy system, naval battles, superstructures, map size which increased by as much as 400%, and so much more. Just a fast one here in Quick Quest, a throwback action platformer set in a classic fantasy world in which our hero has to battle evil and to restore balance to the world. As a 90s kid, I have fond memories of Wonder Boy / Monster Boy, and I believe this might be invoking those games, but honestly, it got on my radar due to the pedigree, since developer Sylph is involved in this, having made games like the underrated Garlic from 2021, so here's hoping that this game is more successful for them.
Sovkhan and his calamities, they're all going to pay.
You can still turn back, Sho. The calamities are not yet in full.
You know it's a great week when a killer game like Slave 0X is only number 6, since I've been pretty excited about this game ever since the review, being a biopunk action platformer in which living machines known as slaves have been created to crush the resistance, but a fearless warrior steals one of these and decides to turn it against its creators. There's some fighting game influence in this game in terms of combat, with the stylish, almost character action style combat drawing upon Devil May Cry and Strider as well. I have told this story before, but apparently the publisher of the game acquired the Slave 0 IP, which was a game from 1999, which I'm not familiar with, but then they got a developer to create the prequel to that game, having a delicious throwback look and is definitely of interest.
Who is this?
I am the Sovereign Khan's oldest and most faithful servant.
I'm not sure if smaller games is the best descriptor for Bandle Tale, a League of Legends story, since it is obviously not small based on the IP, but I have nowhere else to put this, so I just wanted to give this game a mention. It's a cozy life sim title set in Bandle City, which is the homeworld of the Yordle race of spirits, and looks like a delight, although unfortunately it is the last entry in the Riot Forge initiative, which saw Riot licensing out the League of Legends IP to indie developers to make non-mobile games. So hopefully this is great and does come to us from the developer of Graveyard Keeper, so the quality should be there.
Welcome, valued Ringo employee.
Attention, do not share this message. Synthesis have hacked your induction message. To save
As a citizen employee, you must work hard to ensure our economy grows with you at the center.
resist everything. Do not listen to their lies.
An interesting looking adventure game is CorpoNation: The Sorting Process, a Papers, Please-like, if you will, in which you play as an employee of a megacorp and have to sort genetic samples, but you might be able to sabotage the company and help the resistance, and looks like the hidden gem of the week.
Purchasing Ringo-approved decor, growing the economy.
Routine is a prison. Resist their propaganda. You must.
We know that you will never betray your beloved employer and will always give 110%.
They are always watching. Your life is not your own. Only you can.
We're counting on you, Ringo employee. And don't forget, we're always watching.
From the developers of Walkthrough, Do Learn, and Learning Factory comes Craftomation 101, Programming and Craft, another automation programming focused title, but this time you're controlling robots instead, using them to terraform the planet, and looks educational. I have a soft spot for rhythm games, which is why Diets and Deities got my attention, one that incorporates cooking elements as you uncover the flavors of the universe, having a note highway which kind of resembles Everheard, which makes it of note. Here's a very interesting entry in Dungeon No Dungeon Tyrant's Endgame, the follow-up to Dungeon No Dungeon from 2021, which has mixed reviews since that was a Darkest Dungeon style turn-based roguelite, but this game is instead a match 3 with deck building systems and looks different to say the least. Like the video on upcoming RTS games mentioned earlier, tactics titles are on my list to cover as well, which I promise I'll get to, but that's too late for Empires Shall Fall, a game that is essentially Advanced Wars but with more of a diesel punk setting and might be of interest to fans of the genre. The first-person co-op escape room simulator named Escape Simulator has been finding quite a bit of success and therefore have released multiple DLCs, some free, some paid, with the latest simply titled Magic taking place in a mysterious magic shop. I was debating with myself on whether or not to include Feed the Cubs, since this is a co-op roguelite where you and your friends are managing a drink shop, stocking up supplies and crafting drinks to serve your customers, but it is a roguelite, so it might be a little bit too close in concept to Plate Up, which, to be fair, was very successful, hence this clone if you will, but it might have interesting new ideas which makes it worth a look. This next title falls more in the lane of the interactive toy, since in Furnish Master, you're placing furniture and decorations in rooms to create the ideal layout and seems relatively low stakes and very calming. But the nice part is that this is not just a sandbox, also having a story mode in which you're investing in properties and kitting them out and looks great. I covered Garden Life, a cozy simulator in my video on upcoming farming/gardening games of the year, in which this is a first-person title where you tend to your dream garden and simply oozes those cozy vibes and looks very pleasant.
No, unacceptable. I can do better. Ah, yes, perfection.
This week also sees the 1.0 release of Inkulinati, a turn-based strategy game that has armies of animals in a medieval art style fighting against each other, so if you have been waiting, this is the time to pick it up. Here's an interesting looking twin-stick shooter in NIDUS, one that is relatively old school in design, and from the UI elements, it appears that you're controlling the flower and the wasps on the different thumbsticks and might be quite the challenge. There have been a number of games that play with the idea of having to dig through phones and social media accounts for clues, such as the Simulacra games, which have a horror twist, with Pricolage IDOLIZED having the same idea. But this time, a K-pop idol has gone missing, and you need to figure out what has happened, and while not explicitly a horror game, might still have some creepy vibes. We also have the release and sequel Comp 2 this week, in which the ball in Pong manages to escape the arena and goes out exploring, being a one-button game where hitting the button changes the direction of the ball, but I believe the original creators sold the IP to Atari and is made by another developer. The long-awaited sequel Regency Solitaire II also releases this week, being the follow-up to a popular casual game from 2015, and is a +-1 style of solitaire card game but with special abilities. I was honestly surprised to see the release of Ruff Ghanor, since I have not heard of this game before this week, being a Slay the Spire style roguelite deck builder, so let's see if they have any new ideas.
So that was my fate.
The developers of SCP The Expedition did reach out to me, and while I'm not intimately familiar with SCP lore, an XCOM style tactics title set in this universe seems promising. Shadowkin is a vampire survivor style bullet heaven roguelite, but is of interest since it comes to us from the developer of Nomad Survival, which is very popular, with the new twist here being a companion character, either controlled by another player or AI, so let's see what this brings to the table. I covered Sokobond Express in my video previewing upcoming puzzle games of the year, and this is the sequel to a game from 2014, but in which the chemical molecules move along the track that you create, and if the developer is anything to go by, should be a real head scratcher.
Whatever it is that lurks in the dark, it was about to get us. Everything happened so fast. Many were taken before we could sound the horn. The fire was our only hope. We had stocked up, wood and food and everything else, but we had not prepared against the shadows within.
Similarly, The Tribe Must Survive was covered in the video on upcoming strategy roguelites, in which this is a strategy survival management game where giving commands to your villagers and attempting to survive against the horrors of the dark, and will release in early access.
When suddenly, the fog lifted and the light came back. At least for now. Those shadows will return.
This next game is here primarily because I'm interested in the name or the art style of Time to Strike, so if you know, please leave it in the comments below, in which this is another bullet heaven roguelite, but seems to be taking inspiration more from Rotato, and also has a square instead of rectangle play area and looks intense. A very interesting release this week is Windowkill, a meta shoot-'em-up title that takes place within several windows on the desktop, and is something that you can only find in indie games. A not-so-indie title is Yohane the Parhelion, NUMAZU and the MIRAGE, being a roguelite deck builder based on the anime series, which as far as I understand is a spin-off of another series and sees the characters in a different kind of setting, in which there was a Metroidvania spin-off game as well using this IP, so I'm guessing that it has to be fairly popular. The top 5 begins with the early access release of Nightingale, an open-world survival crafting title with a self-described gas lamp fantasy world, in which you play as a realm walker with the ability to enter the Fey realms and to explore and search for resources. 2024 has been the year of the survival crafting game so far, with titles like Enshrouded and Pale World, with this looking to join those ranks, It was delayed for a little bit, but did get a lot of attention when it was first revealed, so I'm guessing many people will be interested in this release. The Fey magic setting and creatures is different as compared to the more classic medieval, Norse or Slavic mythology inspired enemies, so I'll be interested to see the variety, as well as the gameplay loop and if it will capture the imagination of players. I told you it was getting crowded in the survival game space since Sons of the Forest is also releasing out of early access, the sequel to The Forest, and is about as insane as the first game, and even while in early access, this has over 157,000 Steam reviews, which by some estimates have already grossed the developer tens of millions of dollars, and is a very successful game. The studio is technically independent but staffed up quite a bit following the runaway success of the first game, and it shows in this sequel, so survival game fans definitely get in on this. If you're an indie developer and have no idea how to start with marketing your game, get on my mailing list via the link in the description below, where I'll send you some free templates and guides soon. Here's a little bit of a palette cleanser for all the survival games, since Balatro is a poker roguelite that has previewed extremely well in demos and did excellently for the Steam Nix Festival, a game that uses basic poker rules but introduces different types of jokers to wildly alter gameplay, and mark my words, this will be a huge hit. Everywhere I go, I see another survival game in Pacific Drive, a game with a large amount of hype behind it, since this has you exploring the Olympic exclusion zone in your car in order to uncover a mystery. It is one part road trip simulator like Jalopy, and one part survival game like The Long Dark, with your car as the primary lifeline, and looks intriguing as a concept, and might just be another huge breakout hit as well. Surprise! Some of you might not have seen this coming, since this week also sees the 1.0 release of Last Epoch, a Diablo-style action RPG that has been very well received in early access, at least much more so than Wolcen Lords of Mayhem, one that takes place across time and space, so there's lots of enemy variety, which of course you can dispatch off in large numbers. This has an extensive endgame and different subclasses to spec into, as well as a slightly less massive version of Path of Exile's progression system, so if Diablo 4 isn't really doing it for you, this is the title to get. A special mention goes to Patreon member and indie game ultra fan Sean H, with a look at more upcoming games like Diablo in this video.